Hey, Nancy from Soulvibe here, and get comfy because today we're going to talk about mindfulness. So, mindfulness is pretty big, right? It's everywhere. It's even being used in mainstream therapy and psychology and different ways of reaching people and helping them be happier and healthier, lowering stress, lowering depression, decreasing negative patterns and thoughts. And so it seems that mindfulness is a tool in a greater toolbox that anyone can use in order to be happier and healthier, kinder, and more generous in their lives. And let me start this by saying, spoilers, I'm for mindfulness, okay? So I'm not going to pull a fast one on you and tell you how it could necessarily be bad for you at the end, okay? However, I do want to briefly discuss the detractors from mindfulness and the points that they make, so that you and everyone can better understand what mindfulness actually is. Because I think that some of the detractors of the ideas behind mindfulness are misinterpreting somehow what it is and what it is supposed to be. Just like there are a lot of people who misinterpret what positivity actually is. There are a lot of folks who are seeing mindfulness through a lens of something that it really isn't. One of the detractions, which I'm going to be as gentle as I can about this, is that for people of some religions, they know that our current use of mindfulness is sort of kind of based on Eastern religions like Buddhism or Hinduism, where using your mind as opposed to using prayer or something else in order to reach a means to an end is against their religion. Now, I'm not here to argue with that. I'm not going to tell anybody at all what kind of religion they should believe, although because of the fact that mindfulness is not in its purest Buddhist type form the way that psychology is currently using it, it is the mainstream secular mindfulness is not necessarily something that we can call religious at this point, even though it may have some roots in that. Mindfulness is also not about being self-absorbed. Let me be clear about that. Because some of the blogs and articles that I've read from people who have tried mindfulness and felt awful afterwards, or felt that it went against their particular religion, thought going into it that mindfulness was paying attention to yourself more. And that, my friends, is not what it's supposed to be at all. One of the blogs I had read was a woman started becoming more mindful and becoming more mindful about her body and thought she would give it a try and was spending more time exercising and focusing on herself than on her family. And quit because it brought her further away from family and prayer and church and so forth. That is not what it is supposed to be. That is not it at all. Mindfulness is first being aware in this moment, right now, of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're saying, what you're doing, and also of the people around you. And whatever your spiritual or religious inclinations are, your motivations, when we are able to self-analyze this moment in time and what we're doing in it. One, if you're anxious, then you're going to ask yourself why. You're going to think it through. If you're depressed, you're going to ask yourself why. You're also going to think it through. Are you being unkind to someone? Are you being less than tolerant, less than accepting of someone else? What does that say about you in that moment? If you're using mindfulness, you're able to stop yourself and say, why am I reacting this way? And you're being more mindful of how you're treating other people. Because, friend, we are all in this together. And when we are aware of our surroundings, ourselves, our friends, our family, our pets, even the people that we don't necessarily like all that much, if we're aware of our motivations, we're more aware of ourselves. And that is important. When you ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? Why am I feeling this way? How could I do it better? Sure, to some degree, it is focusing on yourself and your thoughts and your feelings and your body and your environment. It might remind you to stop and look at the sky and marvel at how gorgeous it is. Or to stop and literally smell the roses. But it isn't all about you, friend, just like it isn't all about me. Mindfulness can remind me when I'm being less than generous, less than kind, or less than anything else towards someone else. Mindfulness is going to allow me to stop and say, well, why am I doing this? And what does that say about me? What does that say about my spirituality? What does that say about my connection to others? What does that say about my level of kindness, generosity, how I accept other people, and how they express their particular experience in this human condition? Mindfulness can actually make your faith stronger. It can actually make you kinder, make you pay attention to the things and the people around you. And when you act in a way that you didn't really expect to act, or do something that may have been out of character or against the goals that you have set for yourself, or the intentions you have set for yourself. Maybe it's negative self-talk. Maybe it's self-sabotage. Maybe it is pushing people away. Maybe it is jealousy. Maybe it is greed. Who knows what it is, making you act a certain way. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really freaking hard, friends, to stop and analyze your own motivations and see that, hey, I'm kind of screwed up. Sometimes that's hard. But it's the only way for us to really know ourselves and to really take those steps to become a better person every day. And being kinder, and being more generous, and being more thoughtful, and being more warm, that ultimately actually makes us happier. It makes us more positive. It makes us healthier, both emotionally and physically. So, before you say mindfulness, ooh, all that hooey, understand that It's more than just some Eastern spiritual practice of meditation. It is a way for us to intimately understand ourselves and therefore treat other people with the kindness that we wish to be treated with. And if you like this message at all, please do visit us at soulvibe.com. We offer messages every single day that go right to your inbox, designed to empower and inspire you to have a more mindful, a kinder, and more fulfilling life. And I want to thank you for listening and have a wonderful, terrific, fantastic day.